Hello, everyone, and welcome to the therapy room. Listen, welcome to the therapy room on a Sunday, not on a Friday. We've not been here for 2 weeks on a Friday because of speaking for myself, and 1 week I was ill, and I'm speaking throughout May, so we've decided to do the therapy room on a Sunday. So, as well as technical difficulties that made us start about 15 minutes after 8, we were here in the discussion and realized that we weren't live. We weren't
Are you
live.
sure we're live now?
I'm sure we're live now. We weren't
Okay.
live. I am here talking away and I'm thinking, where are our friends? Where are they? And there was nobody. There were no friends. And I felt, where are you all? Have you deserted us because we didn't come on a Friday? So I thought, let me go check. Let me go check. But then I noticed that usually it tells me if anybody's here, but it wasn't telling me. So I thought, let me go check. And would you believe, those who know me, yes, we are live now. Those who know me know that this probably is a Joanna occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are new to me. So we are live now, but we weren't live before. So welcome to the therapy room on a Sunday.
Welcome.
Glad that you came. We're talking about, do you want to introduce the topic, Natalia?
Yeah, today, guys, we are talking about the black sheep, the scapegoat, or the truth teller sometimes. I don't know if
Yeah.
any of these words may ring a bell to you, but the scapegoat or the black sheep would be somebody who is in a family which is dysfunctional or unhealthy.
Yeah.
You will always spot a black sheep. So either you're the black sheep, or you might know like your auntie's the black sheep, your
Mm.
cousin, somebody. And how to identify the black sheep? It would be someone who basically is constantly ignored. Nobody's interested in them. They're kind of like a little bit of an outcast. They are shamed and blamed for a lot of things that happen, a lot of underlying issues in the family. They kind of get all the blame put on them. And yeah, basically they're just a nobody. They can even feel invisible sometimes. Like nobody's interested in anything that they're interested in. Nobody really listens to them. So yeah, I don't know, Joanna. Do you want to add anything to that with the scapegoat? What it might look like?
We were naming some of the underlying things that is in the family, like abuse, for example, is an underlying thing where the black sheep might say, "I'm not coming to the Christmas dinner this year, or I'm not coming home for Christmas because of, you all know that Uncle so and so is an abuser. He abused me, and I told you, and nobody believed me, and so I'm not coming home for Christmas anymore." And as opposed to listening and supporting and getting you support and help and making Uncle so and so accountable, you'll be blamed for ruining Christmas. So they'll also be that thing where we are not dealing with the issue of the abuse. We're going to blame you for ruining Christmas, and so all of that will be, everybody for years will talk about how you ruined Christmas. Um, so those are some of how it functions. There are other ways too. There's one, Natalia, that I wanted to mention while we were talking, but I'm going to let you talk about how the black sheep might feel. What are some of the ways that the black sheep might feel, and they might not know that that's why.
So a black sheep might feel isolated. They
Mm,
might feel really lonely. They might start to blame themselves for their own personal difficulties, for how they feel. They might feel depressed. They might feel anxious. On really sad occasions, if you don't get any help in this state of mind of this isolation, you could end up feeling suicidal because you could end up blaming yourself for all the blame that you get from your family, from being disowned from your family. And it might feel like, you know what, the only way out of this feeling is to end my life. So I'm actually glad that we're having this conversation, Joanna, because a lot of times people could be the black sheep, and because of what they've heard in their environment, they've just been told like, you're always, why are you always being the troublemaker? Why you always got to be different? Why you? It's a lot of blame. It's a lot of burden for one to take on. And you really can end up questioning yourself and your whole existence and your whole purpose in life. And it's hard to believe in yourself as well. So, yeah, I would say that hopefully we can get to talk to that in a bit, Joanna, about how you can heal from being a black sheep. But we're hoping that tonight you guys can get a more thorough understanding of what that is and if that might be you or if it could be someone else in your family and how you could perhaps help them. You're on mute, Joe.
I'm muted. I was saying how you can support them by standing beside them, by hearing their stories and witnessing their stories with them. It might take a while for them to trust you if nobody's ever done that before. But if there's somebody that is ostracized and all the stuff in the family is blamed on them, there is a reason, and they would need somebody to stay close to them and listen to them. Um, I wanted to talk about for a little bit, and we were getting into that when I realized that we weren't live. How this might function in a religious setting, because the therapy room and wounds to scars, we work with Christians, and I think sometimes in a Christian family, this might be the black sheep might be the person who no longer attends church. But remember that we said that black sheeps exist in dysfunctional families, and that might be a lot to take on. But all in families where they're strict, overly so. And we talked, was it last time we talked about dysfunctional families?
We
And
did.
yeah,
Mhm.
so in a family system where they're very, very, I was gonna say black and white down the middle, those words that we use,
Hmm.
but where nobody's listening, where also we're struggling to face the truth, where there is trauma, sometimes from the parents, because that's what makes the family dysfunctional. It's not the children's trauma that makes the family dysfunctional. It's the parents' trauma that makes the family dysfunctional. And so if you find yourself in a family, because sometimes the black sheep says, I'm not coming with you to church because I don't want to, because of the hypocrisy, the inconsistency that they see, what
Mhm.
is happening versus what is talked about. And I wanted to mention this because I get to speak to a lot of people who are struggling with this from that kind of system. What we want to say, I won't say that because we're going to talk about how to heal, because we can, talk about how the family can heal and how the individual can heal and how the system can become healthy from the top down.
Hmm. So, Joe, what you said there, so you're saying that, like in a Christian family, if somebody decides not to go to church, the rest of the family can begin to pin that on the individual to turn them into a black sheep. Is that
No,
what
no,
you said?
not only that, but I'm saying they might decide eventually to not go. I'm not saying that it because they decide not to go, everything is pinned on them. Because I think the black sheep have to exist before. There's some
Before.
there the whole system is dysfunctional already. Um, there's so many other things that is happening in the family that this
Hmm.
person is going, I no longer want to toe the line anymore. I don't want to pretend that everything is fine and everything is not. I don't
Hmm.
want to I don't want to do that, because Uncle so and so can exist in families like that too, where there's a
Hmm.
pretense that he is not what he is, or your experience didn't happen. I didn't want to not mention that, because most of the people who listen who would be in that system isn't from Christian
Yes.
homes. So that I
Hmm.
want them to know that they're not alone, that we know, we understand, we hear. But it's both ways, as you know, like it can happen in
Yes.
Christian home and non-Christian homes. But just
Hmm.
wanted to.
Okay. So, Joe, as well, another thing, in this kind of set, when you're saying like with the black sheep, when they started, they might end up challenging people.
Yeah.
When you're saying like they might say, I'm not coming here because of this, or
Mm.
I feel like this, like really like having the courage to speak what they see or how they feel.
Yeah.
A lot of times it can have other family members feeling uncomfortable. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're not going to go there. It's okay as it is. Let's not say what it is. Let's just act like it doesn't happen. And then like if we act like it doesn't exist, then it don't exist. But in all honesty, it does exist. So I think being the black sheep and talking up, it comes with a cost. We were saying this earlier. It comes with a big cost, even though it's validating and because it's freedom to speak and to stand up for what you believe in. It comes with a big cost. It comes with feeling disowned. It comes with being, ignored, just being shamed, being gaslighted, becoming literally like the problem of everything. So I just wanted to bring up that bit of how it can feel if you do find the courage to speak up in the family.
My unmute wasn't working. Yeah, it does come with a big cost. It can be lonely too when, we all want a sense of belonging. And when this happen, we don't have belonging. And so it can be really lonely when you're calling something out and you're standing alone because you're unsupported. So if you're out there and this has happened to you and you're feeling lonely, just know that it's normal. It can feel like grieving because you are grieving.
You are grieving.
So it's a lot to carry in your mind and in your body when you've called something out, where you've been isolated, you've been ostracized, where you might recognize growing up that this isn't just happened because I'm an adult, because sometimes people have been black sheep their whole lives. It's not just
Mm.
an adult situation, they're children. So you might recognize being ridiculed, being abandoned even when you were younger, being
Mm.
ostracized, being blamed, being put down and insulted. All of those things will be happening, and you might not be believed when you share something. You might be called a liar, all those things, and you might
Mm.
recognize it as you're growing up. So it didn't just happen as an adult; it was happening to you your whole life. And you mentioned something earlier, Natalia, where people can begin to blame themselves, like, because
Mm.
the black sheep will feel like you've never fit in your family. You never
Mhm.
quite fit. And you wondered, they made you think it's you and something is wrong with you. And if you would
Mhm.
just change and do something magical, you would fit in your
Mm.
family. And so you never quite feel like you belong anywhere. And this can cause deep rooted problems. You mentioned depression earlier and
Mm.
anxiety. When you feel like you don't belong in the place that you should, so in this now, there'll be attachment injuries happening, there'll be abandonment,
Mm.
neglect, lots of trauma is happening as a result of it. And you feel like you never belong, then you will never belong. You will feel like you never belong anywhere. Like
Mm.
nobody will want you because the place where you should belong and the people who should want you didn't. It's
Mhm.
not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's not because of anything that you did. It's not because you told the truth. It's not because you shared. It's not because you were born in the middle or the first child or the last. It's not any of those things. And I know it can be really difficult to believe that it's not because of anything I did, but it wasn't. Remember, black sheep exist in dysfunctional families, and it's dysfunction starts from the top
Mm.
down. We have to fix the root, in this case the top, in order the fruit, which is you, to I was gonna say to be different, and I'm saying nothing's wrong with you, but for the things that they blame and the things that is happening within the family to be different, we'd have to fix the top. We'd have to fix the elders, and
Mm.
that's where the blame lays, if there's any. That's where the responsibility, I'm going to say, lay with the elders in your family, not you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone that is listening or they're experiencing this, you're not
Yeah.
alone. There is healing by the grace of God.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it comes down to boundaries, coming to that place of deciding, like, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to do something about it. I recognize this. I'm going to try my best to start to do some work to heal from this. And healing could look like, doing that work on that inner critical voice that you've got that says, you're not good enough. Nobody loves you. You're good for nothing. They're right and you're wrong and you're a liar. All those messages are all just, they're not healthy. They are from the enemy, and he wants to discourage you. He wants you to feel like you're nothing, but you are something. And God wants to heal you. He wants to take you on that healing journey to be happy and to feel like you belong somewhere. Because, like Joanna's already said, like we've been saying, it is from unhealthy families where these kind of roles come, this black sheep role, and it's not your fault. So let's look at some of the ways. So I said about setting boundaries. It could also.
But before you go into that, Natalia, I just wanted to
Mhm.
say to them, or I don't know if it would fit at the end or now, like when you start to heal, as Natalia is going to share some things that you can do, when you start to heal or when you start to do something different, they're going to still do what they do, which is,
Mhm.
they might mock your boundaries,
Mhm.
they might ridicule your confidence, by saying, well, who do you think you are? And how suddenly they are, in the ways that they do. And that can be detrimental to the progress that you make and the healing that you're doing. Just know that they're being them. And it doesn't mean that what you're doing is not right and is not right for you and is not a good thing to do.
Yeah. And also, Joanna, with what you're saying, it's that you've got to come to a place to give up the idea that they are going to change.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that in itself, that's why I feel like the therapy is essential in the healing process, because it's hard to come to that place of accepting, you know what, this is how my dad is. He's never actually going to change. Yeah. And it's kind of like coming to a place of acceptance of, I have to leave it here. I have
Mm.
to do the work myself and try and heal from this and do what I've got to do, but I can't control how I'm being treated in this situation or how the family is treating me. But you can battle back and forth thinking, but maybe they will change it. Maybe if I, meet them halfway, kind of like violate a little bit of my boundaries, but stick to some of them.
Mm.
And then it's like you can end up resenting them because you're still not happy. You
Yeah.
still ended up as half black sheep, half normal sheep. If this is making any sense to you,
I
what
mean,
I'm trying to
if there's even such a thing as half black sheep, like they'll only like you. As you said, they'll only accept you when you give up all of your boundaries, not some. They don't want you to have any, and even then, it will never be enough because it would. The problem's not with you. The problem's
Mm,
with them. It's internal, and so even if you give up a little bit of your boundaries, it won't be enough for them. They'll want
mm,
more. They'll want all of it, and they'll want some more when you've given all, and then they
mm,
won't believe you that you've given, and then it will continue. So it's never ending. It's the only way to end it is for you to do the things that not the things that we're telling you to do, but for
yeah.
you to heal, for you to start a journey of healing and understanding exactly what is happening.
Mm, yeah. Guess it is about, realizing like, okay, this is a cycle. It's been happening for a while. And this is the part that I'm playing in it, because we could be speaking to some of the people who like unconsciously have been, blaming the
Doing
black sheep. Yeah,
mm,
it goes all ways. I guess it's about just like looking at the situation and really having a good think about what we're talking about here, how that looks in your family.
Yes.
What part do you play? Who are you?
Yes.
Or maybe you've
Yes.
just got a healthy family and there's none of this going on. That would be the
Ah,
best situation.
because that happens. There are
Yeah.
healthy families where this does not exist.
Mhm.
But you might have a friend who is from that family, or, so yeah, there are healthy families where this doesn't exist, but sadly, there are families where it does exist. What are the things would you tell to somebody who is a black sheep? What advice would you give them?
As a black sheep, um, not as a black sheep, what I would tell a black sheep. So if you're a black sheep listening, the first thing I would say is, I care about you. And I really do pray and hope that you can get the healing first off. I would say to protect yourself, as we were saying earlier, by setting boundaries, protect yourself around your family, do some work on the inner critics of how you've been feeling, the belief system that you've heard majority of your life, that you're no good, that you're a liar, that you're the problem. I would say maybe just begin a journey of like self-soothing. Try and soothe yourself. So whatever that looks like to you. So to me, that might look like going into therapy. It might look like having some time for myself, deep breathing, going for a walk, getting those, we've spoke about this before, Joanna, getting those endorphins in exercise,
Yeah.
um, reaching out to someone that you do trust. So
Yes.
having that safe space with someone who you can trust, who is safe for you to speak to. Um, Also trying, I know you might not agree with this, Joanna, but trying to come to a place of forgiveness. So forgive, not condoning the abuser.
I
Yeah.
don't disagree with forgiveness. Forgiveness is
No,
right
no,
and
no,
proper.
no. Not like that.
What?
I'm not saying to forgive the abuser. I'm
Right.
saying to just sorry, you're not condoning the behavior of whoever has caused this distress or this trauma, but you're coming to a place of forgiveness to try your best to kind of like let it go and move on. So building your own tribe in a way. Yeah.
Right.
So having that patience to know that, you know what, I've been a black sheep. I can only speak from my experience. I'll speak from my own experience, right? So I felt like a black sheep at a certain part in my life. And what I did was prayed and cried to the Lord. I went into therapy. I began to accept what it was, right? That I am the black sheep and that's okay. And I began to forgive the people around me for how I felt in the situation of feeling like a black sheep. I ended up doing vlogs, journaling to express and let out how I was feeling. And then I began to build my own tribe by the grace of God. So that own tribe was my husband, it was people that God's brought into my life, even you, Joanna, as my fellow sister. Yeah. You've been a really supportive person to me. So I guess it's just like finding out who's safe, who cares about you, who's genuine, like drawing closer to people that that can pour into you, that care about you. Yeah. So that's what I would say to anybody who is a black sheep.
That's good. That's good, Natalia. Those are some really good things. And I love that you talked about forgiveness and clarified it, because sometimes in my mind, as you talked about it, sometimes forgiveness is like a barbed wire fence. You know it's
Mm-hmm.
there, and you know if you run into it, you're going to get hurt, but you
Mm-hmm.
want to try to go across it anyway. And
Yeah.
forgiveness is a little bit like that fence. Like you must know it's there, but not
Mm-hmm.
try to go across it.
Yeah.
Obey the sign that says walk around, don't go under,
Mm-hmm.
because if you go under, you could really hurt yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes forgiveness is like that. You have to forgive them, but you have to know that they have the potential to hurt you. And so it's forgiving with that awareness that if I touch that fence, I'm going to get hurt. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
forgiving them. I'm being very aware of who they are and the spikes and the edges that they have that is hurtful to me and can hurt me over and over again and have been hurting me repeatedly. So I'm not going near the fence. But I have nothing against them. I don't have nothing in my heart. I'm healing. I'm learning. I'm creating boundaries.
Mhm.
I'm looking after myself. I am having to navigate how and the space that I allow them in my life
Mhm.
so that their edges don't hurt me. And sometimes forgiveness have to look like that. It will
It
never
does.
be. We can never be together again, because I'm thinking in the case of when there is abuse
Mm.
and the family is choosing to not acknowledge it. Forgiveness have to look like protection of the vulnerable, protection of
Yes.
yourself, protection of children. Sometimes forgiveness have to look like that, because you know you've experienced it, everybody else choose to ignore it, so you have to protect you and the children that you have access to, maybe your children, maybe
Mhm.
families that you're telling the story, because it helps
Mhm.
protect the vulnerable. So it doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven, if that's the path that you're choosing, or if you've chosen to. I believe forgiveness is good and proper. It sets us free. The Bible says that we should forgive,
Yeah.
because if we don't forgive men, our trespasses won't be forgiven. And so
Mhm.
it's something that we do for ourselves, with the
Yes.
awareness that restoration might not be possible.
That's what I was trying to bring out, Joanna. That's what I was trying to say. So you've forgiven them in your heart, yeah?
Yeah,
But the boundary is forgiveness with boundaries,
yeah,
yeah? But a lot of times it can be hard to forgive because you can be really, really, really hurt, you know? But that
yeah,
is a good place in that healing place on the journey to healing from being a black sheep. Forgiveness has to come into it for your own peace of mind, for your
yeah,
own freedom, as you were saying. But the
yes.
importance of the boundaries around that and understanding that even though you've forgiven them doesn't guarantee change.
No, it doesn't at
No.
all. Doesn't guarantee change. I wish it did. I wish our
Mm.
forgiveness was so powerful and healing to the perpetrator, that it would make them say
Mhm.
sorry, it would make them change their ways. I
Mhm.
wish it would do those things, but it doesn't always do those things. It doesn't always do those things. There's something I was going to say, but it's gone now. Around forgiveness and boundaries, and just looking after ourselves. I know in our Christian community, this is a really tricky one, the one on forgiveness. Really,
Mm.
really tricky. How Because sometimes people open themselves up to being hurt repeatedly,
Yes.
because of the feeling like it should mean restoration. But
Mm.
just know that your forgiveness can't change anybody.
It can't.
God has the power to change people, but they have to want to change. Otherwise, no
Mhm.
change will happen. If
Mhm.
somebody don't want to change and don't desire it and won't do the work to change, they won't change. God can't do it for them, because we have to do it for ourselves. Here is what I want to share. There's a scripture by it's in a conversation with John, and he says we have to bear fruits worthy of repentance. So
Yes.
if you've forgiven,
Change.
change, right? It shows in a changed life. So if you've been a
Mhm.
black sheep and you've been hurt by your mother, your father,
Mhm.
is the caregiver, your siblings, whoever it is that have hurt you, and you've forgiven them, and you're trying to think about, you want your family, and look at the fruits. Are they still doing
Mm.
the same thing? Are they still doing the same thing? Are the same problems existing in the family, or are they shifting it from you because you've put some boundaries in place and now it's attached to somebody else? Because that would mean
Mm.
that those people haven't changed. But if you see that their fruit now is looking different, if you see that they're really trying and they're telling you that they're trying, I'm really sorry I've hurt you and I'm trying to change in this direction.
Mhm.
If once upon a time they used to call you names, but now before it comes out, they catch themselves and they apologize, then you
Mm.
don't change. If they used to project blame onto you, but now they're taking responsibility, then you
Yes.
can change is happening. But give this process time, give it a year of consistency before you can
Yes.
even begin to allow yourself to trust that it is, because without that level of consistency,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a loop, you're in a pattern, you're in a cycle that's going to continue to hurt you. So
Definitely.
the fruit will show in a changed life.
Let the fruit ripen.
Oh, that's a good one. Let the
Mm.
fruit ripen.
Let it
Let it
ripen.
let it ripen. Let it ripen. And you say that, I'm thinking of mango, and I could
I
do with some.
know. Let it be sweet.
Let
Give
it
it
be sweet.
time.
Yeah, let it be sweet. So, what are the things that a dysfunctional family can do? I mean, we talked about dysfunctional family, so probably let's not go back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the kind of family system where black sheeps exist.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to the last episode of the therapy room,
Mm-hmm.
where we talked about dysfunctional families and some of the things that you can do. And as Natalia said earlier, if you are, then therapy. You mentioned some things around the body, Natalia, that people can do. The exercise, the deep breathing, the walking, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so important because this kind of thing don't just affect us psychologically, it's physiological. It affects our bodies, our
Mm-hmm.
biology. Our bodies carry the weight of it, and sometimes we're sick physically and we don't know why. And it
Mm-hmm.
will show up on a blood test. It would be nice, isn't it, if a blood test shows dysfunctional family, and we know what
Imagine.
to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't show. Welcome, I
Joe,
can see.
am
Mhm.
I able to just mention this a little word of message to any youth, any young people listening as well?
Please,
Because
yeah.
many times, as a young person, I've been getting a lot of young people approach me recently because I've been sharing some testimonies in
Yeah.
church, and I've had a few young people approaching me and they're saying, thank you for being authentic. Thank you for just saying it how it is, for sharing your experience. Because sometimes you can feel like a young person said to me, she said, um, in friendship circles, being a Christian, you can feel left out. So I'm not saying that they're saying that they're black sheeps, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. You can feel left out as a young person sometimes because you're not doing what your friends do. You might not be able to go where they go. You might not dress how they dress. You might not eat how they eat. And you can feel isolated. You can feel different. You can feel left out.
Yeah.
And what I would say is to any young person listening, it would be really nice if you could connect with other like-minded people. Yeah. So any friends that you do have that share the same interests as you, connect with them. Like make the most of your tribes who you're around.
Yeah.
Work on your self-esteem. Try and get comfortable in how you look, who you are. Understand why are you the way you are? Why do you dress the way you dress? Why are you a Christian? These are
Mm.
important questions to ask yourself as a young person. Like, am I doing this because somebody's told me to do this? Or am I doing this because I want to do this? And yeah,
Yeah.
the Lord has really impressed me, Joanna. Like, I want to start speaking more on self-confidence, self-esteem, identity, especially for young people, because it can feel really isolating for them, out here.
It can, I agree. Funny, these are conversations we have in our house because we have teenagers, and the teen years is such a tricky time to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
When you make decisions in certain direction and it looks different, and there's the struggle to fit in. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter's podcast is The Radiant, and it's on Spotify. And this is her journey of, building self-esteem and confidence. And she is interviewing people and talking about, how to help young people to build confidence, to make friends. She had me on a couple of weeks ago. This week is her auntie. I think this Thursday she's interviewing somebody else, having that conversation from their perspective about what that's like for them as 16-year-old trying to navigate that space.
What's
Um,
her
so
name on Spotify, Joanna? How can we find
the Radiant, the
the
Radiant,
Radiant?
the Radiant podcast. I don't know if it's podcast is in the title, but it's the Radiant.
Okay.
Um, so coaching her with her podcast is a journey that I enjoy. That she loves it and she loves what she does. She loves listening to podcasts. So I challenge the Radiant podcast. Challenged her to
Mhm.
start her own, and she's done that. Does all the
Nice.
work herself. So yeah, but really, really interesting conversation and discussion. It'd be
Mhm.
interesting to get them all in a room and to hear their views because we'd be surprised sometimes
Mm.
hearing both sides because everybody's insecure. I think
Yeah, we've all got insecurities.
at that age especially, everybody's
Hmm.
just figuring it out, and they just need a guide.
Hmm. Yeah,
Maybe you
Joe.
should.
Another thing, with the black sheep, right? So many times as a black sheep, it's like nobody listens to you. You're ignored. You're basically invisible.
Yeah,
If you do know a black sheep, right, and you're listening to this, and you're a Christian, for one, or you're a religious person that believes in the Lord, please, if you know any black sheep, please give them the time of day. Please listen to
yeah,
them because nobody listens to them. Nobody values anything that they've got to say. Give
yeah,
them some compassion, give them some time, and just listen to them. That's another piece of advice I'd give to anyone who knows a black sheep because it'll be like gold to them because they're not used to it. They're not used to anyone hearing them, and maybe they've got a lot of things going on that they'd like to speak about and express. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this too, eh, Joe? The
yeah,
therapy room,
yeah.
have
Absolutely.
space.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we're doing it. Um, yeah, I'm glad that you are speaking to the young people, especially because sometimes they really struggle. They don't
Mm,
feel like they have anywhere to take this. If they're the black sheep in their family or in a church setting or
mm,
ostracized from their peer group,
yeah.
and sometimes parents don't know how to support them through this.
Mm,
Um, so that can be tricky. I remember when my daughter was wanting to hang out with friends that I didn't think were the friends that I wanted her to hang out with. I
mhm,
had to be available for her because I can't just say, well, no, I don't think you should meet up because of these things. But because she needs friends.
mhm,
She needs her peer group. And so as much as I could provide a space for her to be, doesn't the longing and the desire and the biological time where she is in her life doesn't take
mm,
away from the fact that that is a need.
mm.
But God has amazing ways of meeting that need, and providing, but we're still sometimes praying through that stage and
Yes.
talking about what you want and um, what we would like God to send and what it looks like and how to be with the people that is available without sacrificing your values.
Mm,
So what I do is, and that's some of the journey on the podcast, is understanding who am I and what do I
yes.
believe in and why and how do
Mhm,
I have friends but not sacrifice those things that are my values and are important to me. And I told her
mm.
that when I was 16, I didn't know anything about values. I didn't know I had any. So I didn't know what the name. So yeah, I didn't know the name. So for her to, so that she can make that she can make that distinction for herself. So when she meet people, though they might not have everything in common, so she's
Mhm,
not just letting people in just because she wants people in her life and wants friends, but
yes.
also because I know that these people, we have these things in common, these important things we don't have in common. How close am I going to let them? And so giving her the tools to figure that out for herself as well. Because I could say, and her dad and I could say, no, 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 no. You're not talking to them. You're not talking to them. You're not going there and you're not doing that. We are making the decision. She's 16, she's going to be 18 next year when she might be going off to university or whatever she decides that God has led her to do, with no skills at all to make those decisions.
Mm.
One day she's going to go to work, maybe an apprenticeship, whatever. She's going to have no skills whatsoever to make
To
those
think for
decisions.
herself. Yeah.
Yes. So now she's thinking through, so what are my values? What are the things that are important to me? Who am I and why am I who I am?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe giving her, while we're guiding, giving them the opportunity to think about those things. So when they're in situations like, those are the things, and then they can hear the voice of the Holy Spirit and mine saying, mommy said. Because I mean, that's important to me, because I served my mother's God for years until I realized that,
Mm.
hang on, mommy can't see me, but God can. Shouldn't I be worried about
Mm-hmm.
it? So, I wanted to give them that gift.
It matters. It matters. That's good that you're doing that, Joanna.
Yeah.
I think it's so important as a parent to be able to navigate through these things and have that relationship with your daughter to even be able to get her to think about this sort of
Mm,
stuff.
yeah. We wanted to give them those tools so that, and encourage them and help them to use it, because it can feel really lonely when you're on the edge of a friendship
Mhm.
group. It can be very lonely,
Very lonely.
as it can be when you're on the edge of the family, when you're
Mhm.
ostracized from the family, when you feel alone and isolated. It can be very lonely, and it can make you give up and just fall back in line and give up your healing journey. It can make you
Mm.
give up your conviction of what is right. It can make you put yourself at risk because it's lonely. We won't pretend that it's not lonely. It is. It is. All right, we can see that somebody has joined. People have been coming on and off, and we welcome you. And as usual, please feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. Anything you want to say, Natalie, before as we wind up? Oh, I think Natalia is frozen. Okay, I think Natalia is frozen. Right. So we were just talking about, for those who are just joining us in the middle, we were talking about the black sheep. We identified who the black sheep is in the family. It's either the black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller. I call it in the family, the person who is calling things out and is naming what is happening. And also, we talked about some of the things that happen as a result of the sometimes having all the blame and all the things in the family projected at you, how sometimes it can feel lonely. We lose a sense of belonging. The feeling of being abandoned can create other feelings of anxiety and depression and other mental health things that can come out of it. It can also affect us physically when we're in that place. What we've pointed out and what we wanted to take away is that the black sheep exists in family systems that are dysfunctional. There are no black sheep that exist in healthy families. It is only in dysfunctional families. So if you are a black sheep in your family, it's because there's some dysfunction that's present, usually a lot of dysfunction. If there's somebody else that is the black sheep in your family, there is dysfunction that exists, and you can see maybe how you can start to listen to that person who is on the edge, provide space for them to witness their stories without judgment, without defending anybody in the family, just hearing their stories. Sometimes we feel like if we hear, we have to agree, and you might have a different perspective, or your truth in that story that they tell might be very different. But it's really important to hear somebody's story and to witness it as they tell it, not as we think it should be. That's really important that we do. Just witness it as they tell it, not as what we think it should be. So welcome back,
Sorry.
Natalia. I was
Mhm.
saying, if you know that there's a person in your family that's been ostracized and on the edge, that listen to their story.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have a different memory, I'm going to say, of an event to the next person, and we might want them to agree with our view of the event. And so part of when we're listening is we want to get people to change their view because we feel it's wrong. So what I'm inviting people to do, if there's somebody in your family that is being seen as the black sheep, to witness their story, to just listen to their story
Yeah.
as they tell it, not as we think it should be. When we hear it as they tell it. Now, any misbelief that is in that story, we don't have to fix it. You know, therapy will fix it.
Yeah.
Sometimes as they heal, they'll fix it. I hear this amazing story on the Four Questions podcast by Eddie Hippolyte. It's podcast, and he talked about a time when, you know, when his father was leaving and he ran. It's the episode that's called Chasing Daddy. You should go listen to it. It's really good. He talked about when his father was leaving and he ran after his dad. So he told his mother this story, and his mother said, "You didn't run after your dad, your brother did." He was convinced it was him. And then he told his sister the story sometime later, and his sister said, "You didn't run after your dad, your brother did." In his mind, he did. And here's two people telling him he didn't. He didn't. It wasn't him. But sometimes we can experience something so powerfully in that moment, and maybe he wanted to, but he didn't. It was his brother, but in his head he did. So, and I'm not saying he's a black sheep, but I'm saying when we're listening to the stories of people, just witness it, just listen to it, just hear it, don't fix it. Because if you're in that family, if you're also in that family, you trying to fix it will add to the damage.
It will. It will.
And that's
It'll be
why,
like fuel. It will add fuel to the fire.
yeah, and
And
that's why you
that's why
can't.
and that's why God gives us 2 ears, because we need to listen more than
That's it.
speak. And you don't have to, like we was talking earlier, so we don't have to agree with them.
No,
But there's so much power in just listening.
just listening.
And as
Just
a little
witness
black and as a black sheep, they've been gaslighted for so long of people telling them they're not true.
it.
You're a liar, we don't believe you, or being ignored, not having a voice. If you could give them just some time to just listen to them, you'd be able to at least help their healing process, be
Yeah,
caring enough. Like, just, yeah,
yeah. Just listen. Just listen
just
to the
listen.
story. Just hear it. Hear the story. Don't fix it. Hear it. You might have to deep breathe because everything in you might be warring and wanting to disagree. But you'll get to the place if you're genuinely wanting to listen and be a support because you see where that's been happening. You will learn how to listen. Unless, and this is something that maybe you have to face if you are not, and black sheeps exist in your family, you benefit from them being the black sheep. And that one can be hard. If you benefit, you might not want to fix it. You might want things to stay as they are because you're experiencing the benefit. But that's not helping you either. And we would want to encourage you to also be with that. Why do you enjoy it? And why are you benefiting? Because it still speaks to dysfunction. Still speaks to dysfunction.
It does.
Okay. Somebody's here. If you want to ask any questions, then please let us know. And otherwise, we're going to end tonight and we're going to be back next week, Sunday at 8 p.m.
Yes. 8
We will
p.m.
try to fix any technical difficulties before, and we will go live and not start to talk before.
Yes.
We were about 10 minutes in when we realized that, hang on, nobody's on because we weren't live. Oops. 9:30. So thank you all so much. It's good to be back, Natalia.
It is.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this topic this week.
Yes, me too.
And I really hope that people will get something from this. and really have something to think about,
Yes.
and hopefully help the black sheep in their family or heal themselves if they're the black sheep.
Yes. If you're the parent here, if you're a parent and there's a person in your family that's a black sheep that is outside, I would look at myself. See, what we do here on Wounds and Scars and Christ Therapy and the therapy room is challenge you lovingly, because it means that something is wrong at the top. When we look at the story of Joseph, we saw that there was something wrong at the top. In all those stories, there's something wrong at the top. And until the top is changed, it will continue. Doesn't mean that you're responsible for people's choices and decisions. But if you know that your trauma has meant that you've not been able to love and to protect in the ways that and to be what your children have needed, there's still time. There's still time to fix that.
And the fact that you're even here or listening to this at a later date shows that there is something in you that is interested in healing or
Yes.
doing some kind of therapeutic work. So it's not by chance that you've heard this today. So if you've heard it, pray on it and just see where you can be led, to a better, happier family dynamic.
I agree. All right, then. Thank you for joining us on the therapy room. We hope that you'll have an amazing week and that you'll join us again next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. for another, I was going to say episode, but it's not an episode, is it? For another discussion on the therapy room. Another session, right. There you go. Another session. We never know what we're going to talk about ahead of time, but
no, we don't.
If you have something, if you have something that you want us to look at, then I wonder if we should do forgiveness, because it came up tonight.
It did come up. It did. We could do that, Joe. I feel like there's a lot of different layers to forgiveness.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do forgiveness. Do you know what we should do though, Joe? In the week, maybe on our Instagram or Facebook, we could try and do some kind of poll to ask people what they're interested in. Or maybe they could send us messages, like you said. They could send us messages, questions of things that they'd like us to look at. Like they can send in a question and we answer that question live, like at the end of the session or at some point in the session.
That could happen too. I've put my email in the chat. Can you access the chat?
Let me have a look. 1 moment.
You could put yours in.
No, I don't think I can access the chat actually. Actually, wait. Yes, I can.
You can't?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, fab. So if you put your details there, the public one that's on your website as well, or just put your website, maybe they could do it via the website. Send they could send the details there, whichever one you want to, whichever one you're happy to do. As we wrap up, welcome. I can see that people are here. We're talking about the black sheep. Please ask any questions or comments in the chat. We're just winding down and talking about what we'll discuss next week, which is perhaps forgiveness. Unless you have a question that you want to ask, then we will consider that as well. All right, Natalia, have a good week. Everyone, have a good week. And we will see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. Tell your friends and your family that we're on a new day, not Friday, but Sunday evenings. All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.